WVN.
MPS asking for more money on this Tuesday's ballot. Plus, Donald Trump makes his first campaign stop of the year in Wisconsin. CBS 58's Emilee, Fannon, WisPolitics editor J.R. Ross discuss that and more in tonight's Capital Connection.
On Tuesday, there's going to be a lot at stake on your ballot, and we're first going to talk about the two statewide referendums that voters are going to see, and both deal with elections and could have an impact on how elections are administrated for years to come. The first question asks voters about private funds and whether they should be used to help administer elections. The second deals with whether only election officials can perform certain duties. Now, looking at both these questions, the second one does raise actually some questions because there's actually already a state law that clarifies who can have certain duties on election day. And I talked to an expert this week that said if this does pass, there might have to have, courts step in to seek clarify on who this applies to. But in general, these were both authored by Republicans. Whether voters understand them and they get passed is the big question ahead.
So look, the 2020 election was hopefully a once-in-a-lifetime experience for people in Wisconsin, this country, this world. It comes having a pandemic going on while you're having an election. But there were unique demands, unique costs with that election in 2020 with PPE and those kinds of things. Republicans want to make sure if this ever happens again, you're not going to see Mark Zuckerberg or some other wealthy individual come into Wisconsin or elsewhere and say, here's money to run your election. Now, the challenge from local officials is, okay, how do you properly fund us for an election if you're not going to allow us to seek private grants? Republicans, though, feel like you open the door, if you allow this, to any wealthy individual from any part of the political spectrum to influence the election by how it's run. So what I'm watching for is you're seeing the Republican Party of Wisconsin engage with social media. You're seeing some paid media campaigns urge people to vote yes for this. You're also seeing, though, Democratic groups like the State Democratic Party has endorsed voting against the questions. Other groups that do stuff, turn out in spring elections, are kind of saying, hey, we're opposed to this. Does that sway anybody? And two, are voters clear what these questions ask? We've seen before with constitutional amendments, if voters aren't quite clear what this would do, they're kind of hesitant to vote yes. So I'm kind of interested to see how it turns out. All
right, and the other big issue that's dividing a lot of Milwaukeeans is the MPS referendum that is asking voters for $252 million for the school district. Now, putting this in perspective for people, this would raise property taxes. So if your home is worth roughly $1,000, you would see a $216 property tax increase. Well, double that. If it's about a $200,000 home, you would see about $432 increase in your property taxes. Now, MPS leaders have said that the district is facing a $200 million shortfall, and they just can't keep up with inflation right now, and that's why they're going to ask voters again. Meanwhile, opponents just say, well, hey, we just approved another a referendum back in 2020. You were asking us for $87 million, plus they see all the federal funds from COVID that pumped into school districts. So it's really dividing people that say, why do you need this money? And others are saying, hey, demand is up there, and we need to get some funds to keep the school district alive.
There has been a spike in the number of referendums approved by voters for school taxes, property taxes, last decade or so. It's been driven by this perception of our schools don't have enough money. The question is, are we reaching a breaking point where voters go, you know what, between inflation, what's happening at home, I feel like I can't do this right now. More often than not, most of the referendums passed in Wisconsin. How much that $1.4 billion, though, is going to be passed on Tuesday? I'm really curious to see what that appetite is with what's going on economically in this country right now, in the state, how voters react to that.
And Democratic voters, if you receive your ballot, you're actually going to see another option beyond just Joe Biden and Dean Phillips. You're actually going to see what's called uninstructed. And this is a movement that we've seen in many other states, which is, in a sense, a protest vote against President Biden and his handling of the war in Gaza. Now, organizers that I talked to this week, they're hoping to get about 20,000 votes to turn out. Oh, there's actually a coincidence about that number because that's the threshold that Biden defeated Trump 4 years ago here in Wisconsin by. So they're trying to send a message that, hey, if we can get that much turnout, you're going to need us come November. But whether this is still an issue come November is the big question.
So look, the race for the nominations is over. Like, Donald Trump has enough delegates for the Republican nomination, Joe Biden for the Democratic nomination. We shouldn't see really high turnout in Wisconsin for a presidential primary compared to years past when there's still been kind of some question. But what I'm watching for is, do these votes on Tuesday show us if there's a split in the bases right now in Wisconsin in April? For Joe Biden, it's uninstructed. How big a chunk of the vote that those guys get? For Donald Trump, it's Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. Yes, they're out of the race. They're still on the ballot. And we've seen in other states, even if Trump showed up the nomination, a healthy number of Republican voters saying, I want an alternative. This cannot, look, it doesn't necessarily mean that come November, that split will remain, but it shows you right now, possibly, what work they have to do to get the base zone back up.
And looking ahead to next week on Tuesday, staying on the topic of the election, former President Donald Trump will be in Green Bay hosting his first rally of the year. There's a lot of questions of who might be on stage with him, but we're going to look at just fundraising right now, because always when a former president or president comes here, of course, they come here, campaign, and try to get a lot of money.
Look, I keep seeing polls that show Donald Trump in a very strong position in swing states, including Wisconsin. There's no denying that he's in a great spot right now. But there are financial red flags everywhere for Republicans. Joe Biden and the Democratic National Committee had twice as much money cash on hand than Trump and the RNC end of February. That's even before Joe Biden raised, we think, $25 million on Thursday in New York. Looking at the state party in Wisconsin, it is just not keeping pace with the Democratic Party in terms of raising state funds. Now, you can't use state money to run ads for Trump or for Tammy Baldwin for a federal race. You can, though, use those state funds to help build infrastructure, to help turn people out. You can do a mix of state federal funds to do that, and the Republican Party is just not keeping pace. Trump does not have an infrastructure here of his own. There's no Trump campaign we know of. Right. Joe Biden has been here for months, building out his operation. Yes, Trump's in a good position poll-wise, but who turns voters out come November? That is a challenge for Republicans right now. They have to figure out if they can do it, or we'll have to rely on outside groups to do that for them.
All right, well, that will do it for this week. Thanks so much for joining.